and welcome to our discussion on entrepreneurship in TVET, tools for enhancing your business. I am your moderator for this session, Ms. Umita Jagannath, Customer Service Officer of the Business Development and Communication Department here at the National Training Agency. As we get into our session today, and before I introduce our presenter, I invite you to stay tuned to our YouTube channel and please place your questions in the chat so that we can get to it at the end of the session. Let me begin by telling you a little bit about our guest today. He has a background in economics and project management and has been working with Youth Business Trinidad and Tobago, better known as YBTT, for the past 12 years. He's a Rotarian and a chess coach and is passionate about connecting innovation and the building blocks of businesses and adapting to the ever-changing world. His personal mantra, there are too many people looking for a better life and not enough looking to make life better. Welcome, Mr. Shedron Collins. We are very pleased to have you with us today and excited about the presentation.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited too. I'm hoping I can do justice to the introduction.
I'm very sure you will. So let's see. Today, to be reminded, our discussion is going to be tools for enhancing your business. What are you going to be discussing and presenting for us today, Mr. Collins?
A mixture of a couple of different things. And you can let me know when I can start, but it's going to be a mixture of a couple of different things. We're going to at least focus the presentation on startups and things for startups. Mm-hmm. We're going to touch a bit on what we call the business model canvas, and what goes through the mindset of someone going through what is my business all about, right? And then we're going to think about what support tools are out there and support organizations are out there for entrepreneurs.
Okay, so let's get right into the presentation. I'm looking forward to seeing this.
All right, great. So disclaimer, this is usually taught at for us at YBTT, it's usually taught at a 10-week program. So this is me trying to stuff as much information into 30 to 45 minutes of what we can talk about, right? And I always say that, you know, the thing about Youth Business Trinidad and Tobago, we're an organization that we resemble our customers, right? So we are tailored to be entrepreneurs and we're tailored to focus on entrepreneurship. So you would see on the screen now that the conversation that we're going to have is around 4 startups, right? And we're going to touch on a couple of different things, right? You would see me and Michael Jackson on the bottom. That's another story, right? We're going to dive into. So at Youth Business, we believe in empowering young persons, not just to build profitable businesses, but also making sure that they ensure that their business is sustainable. So not just looking at the profitable side and revenue generating, but how is this business going to last 5 years, 10 years, and be generational in what we do? So a couple logos you're seeing on the left side of the slide would be the Youth Business logo and us nurturing the business spirit in youth, but we're also part of 2 important network organizations. So with here in the region, we're part of Youth Business Caribbean, and internationally, around 52 different countries, we're part of Youth Business International. And the goal really here is that we take the best practices and the best tools and bring it here to Trinidad and Tobago. So with that, a little bit, I mean, it would be remiss of me as the general manager not to at least talk about what Youth Business is about, because I'm sure we have a couple of persons tuning in that they heard YBTT and saying, okay, who's that? Right? So this is an opportunity just to kind of do a fast deep dive. It's going to be like 20 seconds about Youth Business. And we kind of serve 2 markets, the incubator side of persons who are just starting up, and this is really where we're going to focus the presentation on. But also there's the accelerator side of things, where persons who've been in business for 3 years, 4 years, they kind of have an understanding what their business is about and how they grew. So you would see within our IBTT, we have our Jumpstart program, which is really around training and putting the technical skills around entrepreneurship. The mentorship and advisory, we look at entrepreneurs themselves and business persons paying it forward, right? Passing their knowledge, the challenges that they would have gone through to the next generation of entrepreneurs being develops. And we do offer small loans as well. In Accelerator Life, we look at growth workshop, consultancy, and how do we build that investment opportunities for those entrepreneurs. So that's a bit about YBTT, and I want to get started into what we're here to talk about today. But before I start, I must put my disclaimers up, right? So be open to new, and really what that means is that we're going to talk about new terms, for most persons, new ways of doing things. And this is really anything on entrepreneurship, I believe sometimes is an opinion, because entrepreneurship is ever changing, right? And it's really through your eyes and your journeys, what you've seen is really what you can tell and the story that you can tell. The focus are going to be startups, so persons who've just started, and what we call entrepreneurs, persons who really want to be entrepreneurs, right? They're seeing opportunities and they wonder, how can I get started? And I would always tell persons there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and being self-employed, right? So an entrepreneur, what they tend to do is build the processes and structure so that they can afford to step out away from the business, step back from the business, and let the business be able to run by themselves. So you're asking yourself a question, I'm in this business. Am I self-employed? Meaning, am I just working for myself, or am I an entrepreneur who's putting structure and the processes in place that if I need to step away from the business can still operate? Also, we're recording. So you have the power to go back and look back at this YouTube video to take up any nuggets that you find. Like I said, it's a 10-week course that we're cramming into 30 minutes, and we're going to see how fast we can get through it. Bring some new terms. You can go back, play it on slow. So if you hit 0.75, you might need to do that. And we're recording. But the last thing I want to make sure is that you pay, and that should be it forward, right? You pay it forward, meaning that you're looking at what is presented here. If you know someone who is just like you, they want to get into business, they probably couldn't attend this workshop today, send them the link, right? Or send them some of your nuggets and some of the information that you saw today. So with that, folks, I just want to come up with a quote, and this is something that I came up with. Like I said, the best ideas come up when you're in the shower sometimes. So this came to me there. And it's about how do we build that 3 Ps of an entrepreneur, right? So how could you use your passion, so something that you're really passionate about, to solve today's world problems, right? So you're looking at the challenges in today's world, the opportunities that are there, and you're building something around that. And as always, how do you turn that into a profit? So use your passion to solve problems and turn it into a profit. And that's really what you're going to start doing as an entrepreneur. Thinking, what is my passion? What are the problems? And how can I make a profit? So with that, like I said, this is for startups. So you have this idea of a business. Now what? And that's usually the question that you find yourself thinking. And the thing that comes to mind is that I need a business plan, right? Wrong, right? So at this point at the startup, I always tell persons dive in and get started, right? And we'll talk about how we go about diving in, especially if you're looking at a capital-intensive business, how you go about diving in without creating that business plan. Because at that startup phase of your business, you're now trying to structure, what does this business look like? What works for this business? Before you go on to write that 20, 50, I actually received that 100-page business plan once. Before you put that details down, you really want to figure out what really works for my business, right? So when I'm thinking with our entrepreneurs and how we teach our entrepreneurs, instead of starting with the business plan, let's start with something called the business model canvas. And what that is, you will see that we even use it ourselves here at YBTT, right? What really the business model canvas is, it's a visual representation of 9 building blocks of any business, right? So things that are common to any business. We look at customer segments, the value proposition, the channels, the customer relation, the 3 keys of business, and always at the financial part in terms of cost and revenue. And that really tells you a story of what the business is. And at that startup phase, they're constantly now changing and switching elements of that business to make sure what works. So the value that you offer today, after testing it out in your market, you may realize that one aspect of my service or my product is more valuable than the others. So therefore, I'm focusing on that, and that may introduce a new customer segment. The good thing about the business model canvas, I know a lot of people think being innovative and creating that innovative idea, you always have to look at that value proposition when you look at the product and service, and think about could I create an innovative product or could I create an innovative service? The good thing about the business model canvas, there are 8 other blocks in which you can be innovative. Right? So think about it. Could you be innovative in terms of how I distribute my product and services to my customers? So you're thinking about your channels. How can I be innovative in that space? How can I be innovative in terms of the typical businesses that do these similar products and services that I do? I'm creating a whole new revenue stream. You may target a niche market in terms of a customer segment, giving you a whole new innovative concept to look at. So we're going to dive right into it. I would tell you now, you have 10 seconds. If you have a pen, paper nearby, and think about the business idea that you have now. Let's start building your own business model canvas. Right? So this is going to be pretty quick. Like I said, you had 10 minutes. We have 5 now. 4, 3, 2, 1. Right? And that's it. So if you're on your laptop, then you open up Microsoft Word and you can get started from there. So we're going to build our own business model canvas. We're going to talk about each block, what goes in there, and going to use some examples, and you're going to think about your own business idea. We are on YouTube and there is the chat option. So feel free to dive into the chat, make any question, ask any questions that you have, any comments that you have, feel free to dive in there and let's get to know each other. There's a couple lags. So even though you're asking questions, I may not be able to answer it in real time, and we'll address that at the ending of the session as well. So your customer segments. You started with this business idea, and you're thinking about who wants what I have? Who's this problem am I solving? What the different groups, people, and sometimes organizations, you're thinking about your business model might be a B2B, which is business to business, and you're thinking about how am I going to serve them? Who are the groups that I'm serving? And at this customer segment, I mean, you would have heard the term your target audience or your target customers, right? Who are these people? And, we had a tendency saying that, I want everybody to purchase my product or service. But when you think about it, there are different traits or different usage of your product and services. So you want to think about, for this customer service, if I'm a mechanic, I'm looking for a person who, one, may not know much about cars. So you're thinking about my customer segment don't know much about cars. They may not have the time to leave their car for a day. So you can probably do on-site diagnostic in terms of your values. You're thinking about people who usually come to me as my customers. What are their goals? What are their jobs? What are the things that they're looking to get done? Right? What benefits do they want? And what challenges do they have? So you're thinking about that and you're trying to be as detailed as possible with your customer segment. So now that we've talked about the customer segment, we want to dive into the value proposition, right? And you heard it before, people want value for money, right? So at this point, you're looking at how am I creating value for the specific customer segment that I just spoke about, right? Look at the bundles and services that you have, and you're now thinking about how is this valuable to the customers, right? You may be an electrician, so the services that you're offering is electrical services, and you're thinking about how is this value and how can I add more value to the customers. I may even now create a brochure in terms of before you contact me as an electrician, try these things, right? And you may give them a 3-step process in terms of things to try, nothing too dangerous, right? Before they contact you. And as a customer, that is adding value. So I'm not wasting time to call you. I'm making sure that I really need you before I call you. And then they would call you simply because you're offering value to them. That is something that they can use. So you're thinking about what can I add to my product or service to make it valuable to my customers? And that's really specifically knowing what are the challenges that the customers face. And then we're thinking about, we have our customers, we know who our customers are, we know what value I want to give to them. We're thinking about how am I going to now deliver this value to those customers? What channels am I going to use? And this is on 2 folds. This is about delivery of your products to your customers, but it's also about how are your customers getting to know about your business. So think about if you're using social media, if you're using a website, where do people find out about your information? It might be word of mouth, right? So what channels are you using to let your customers know that I'm out there, right? So this is you jotting down, what are my channels? And then you're thinking about, if I need to distribute my product or service, how am I going to do? Do I need to have a front house shop? Therefore, that can work there. Maybe I need to go to my customers, and that's my delivery option. Maybe it's a product or service that I can partner with someone who can do the deliveries for me, right? So you're thinking about how am I getting my value to my customers, but also you're thinking about how am I going to make my customers know about my value, right? The next thing we're thinking about is the love factor in businesses, right? So what kind of relationship am I going to have with these customers? Is it something long-term? Is this something that's going to be reoccurring? Is it a one-off relationship? So they come, they buy, that's it. You probably would never see them again. But you're looking for somebody who is a return customer, so you want them to make sure that you're the first person that they call if they have this problem. And I always use that, a simple thing as a mechanic saying, here's one. Every 5,000 miles, you need to come and get your oil change. They estimate how long it will take you to get that 5,000. And they would call you when they estimate it at 4,500 and said, that's to remind you, hey, remember you need to get your oil change. And that little simple tip makes them want to come to you. So you're thinking about how do I build this relationship or even a greater relationship with my customers. So that's it. That's the fourth block. So we had 4. Remember, we had 9 blocks we're going to cover. And then we're thinking about, I understand my customers. I know what value I'm giving them. I know what relationships I'm building, and I know how to get those products or services to my customers. Now you're thinking about how am I generating revenue? And for each different value that you offer, you can start thinking about generating revenue. There's a movie called The Founder, right? I recently watched it, so I'm using it in a couple different presentations that I do. And The Founder was about how McDonald's created their business. And McDonald's was losing money because they were using a franchise model. So their revenue streams were franchises, but it wasn't making enough money under the franchise. So they added another service under their value proposition to your customers, which included that they took a loan, they purchased the land in terms of where the McDonald's could be built on. So along with offering the franchise to their customers and customers paying for the franchise, they're now offering a spot in terms of where you can actually build your McDonald's on, and then they lease the land to them. So that created a different revenue stream. And you know that people talk about the old saying of all the rich persons or the wealthy persons, they at least have multiple revenue streams. And you've seen books saying that you have to have at least 5 revenue streams and 7 revenue streams. Now think about your business. If you want your business to be profitable and long-term, how many revenue streams do you have with that particular business? And you're now starting to generate, what else do my customers want? How can I be more value to them, right? And you might be creating now various revenue streams in terms of getting for that customer. So the more revenue streams you have, if one fails, you can rely on the others. And we're going to dive into what we call the 3 keys of business. And this is the entire left side of the canvas. And it's called the key resources, the key activities, and the key partners. So we're going to go through all of them. The key resources are what is important, what are the important assets required to make this business model successful, right? It might be a website because your business services is completely offered digitally. It might be having a car because you need to go to your clients, right, in order to do the servicing or whatever works that you need to do there. So you're now thinking about my car is an important asset, right? You're now thinking about if I need to have a physical store or equipment, those become my key resources. Now, when you do some more, and I'll put another disclaimer, this is about entrepreneurship. So I'm just give you a taste, and a lot of these things that I'm saying now, you have to do more research in. So when we talk about key resources, you can group them in terms of financial resources, you can group them in terms of human resources, physical resources, or intellectual property. And those are the key resources that I'll use for your business. So think about it. What falls under what? Do I need to have a float? Therefore, I need to have a financial resource in my business because a float is important for my business to run, right? Do I need special equipment? So that's a physical resource that I need, right? Do I need to have my intellectual property? If you're in the music industry, right? The intellectual property rights of your songs, you need to have those because those are important assets on your business. And in any accounting things that you do, the more assets you have, the better, right? More assets than liabilities, the better for your business. So it moves on to the other key, and we talk about the key activities. So what do I need to do on a month-to-month basis? And you're thinking about priorities. So if you had a list of 10 things to do every day, and I can only do 5, those are your key activities. Those 5 are your key activities. And you're thinking about what are those 5 and how can I get those 5 to be done a lot faster and more efficient? So your key activities is actually where you improve the efficiency of your business. So you're looking at if I need to do, I need to go to my clients to do servicing. Is there anything I can do to shorten the time in terms of me getting to my clients? Right? Is there something I can do virtually with them? So rather than having to physically go there, one of my key activities is here's what. Call me on WhatsApp call. Let me see the problem. I can probably advise you right there. And it saves me time in having to come to you directly to fix the problem. And you're thinking about what are the key activities of my business and how can I become more efficient and in terms of how I deliver there. So the final key is called your key partners. And this is about the suppliers and partners that make your business model successful. So you're now thinking about the value chain of your business. And value chain is a word that you could go up and Google. So you're thinking about the entire industry of what my idea, my product or service is in. Do you know all the suppliers? Do you know the people who are supplying you with your raw materials, right? Do you have any special relationships with them? Do you have any like partners that you can join with? If you're an electrician and you know a welder, you put them as a key partner to your business so that if you all are working as referrals, if I'm an electrician and I know somebody who needs a welder, I pass it on to him. If the welder would pass on their work to me as an electrician. So you're working hand in hand with other businesses because the entire thing about entrepreneurship is a team sport. So you may not have a dedicated staff or big group of persons that you're working with, but there may be other entrepreneurs who are starting off just like you that you can have relationships with. If you have long-term relationships with your suppliers, it may be that right now your competitors are purchasing the raw materials at $5, but because you have that long-term agreement or relationship with your supplier, you're purchasing at $3. Therefore, there's a $2 margin in terms of how you can actually market your business as being low cost, right? Because you're actually saving $2 on every raw material that you purchase. So that gives you that competitive edge. So you're thinking about your partners and the suppliers about who can give me that competitive edge to deliver the product or service that I'm competing against. Which brings us to the hardest part sometimes when we get into the business model, because this is where money coming out of the business. And you're thinking about your cost structure. I say to persons, think about cost structure in 3 ways. I did say this is for startups. So your first cost structure is, what is the cost of the different items do I need to get started, right? And you're thinking about, do I need to purchase any equipment? Do I need to do any legal registration of my business? Those are the things that you would incur probably once because that's a startup cost. And then you're thinking about the fixed costs, right? Are there anything that will be reoccurring monthly? Things like rent, things like salary. Don't forget to pay yourself, right? Things like rent, things like salaries. Those are your fixed costs that you incur month to month. And then you're thinking about variable costs. The easiest way to explain variable costs, the more you do, the more that costs, right? So you're thinking about if I have to, and I have a cup here, if I have to make a cup, right? Every cup that I make, there's a specific cost that goes into making that cup. And those become my variable costs. The electricity or the warehouse that I'm building that cup in will be my fixed costs, right? So the more cups that I make, therefore it becomes the more variable costs I incur that are attached to that cup. So you're thinking about your costs in those 3 dimensions. Obviously, you have other things like your administrative costs that you may look into there and your operational costs. But remember, these things change. And like I said, for your innovation in your business, you're looking at how could I manipulate this cost structure to reduce my costs? Is there a potential for me to reduce my fixed costs monthly, so therefore it's less cost, so therefore I can make more profit as I have the same revenue coming in? Or is there a possibility of me reducing the cost to make a specific product? Right? So you're thinking about those 9 structures, and I'll just run through them really quick about your business and figuring out how could I become more innovative. So you're thinking about your customer segment. Could I be innovative there? Are you thinking about your value proposition? Can I offer more value? You're thinking about my channels. Is there a unique way to get my products and services to my customers? You're thinking about the relationship. What work have I done to build long-standing relationships with my customers? You're thinking about your revenue stream. Are there additional things that I can incorporate into my business to create more revenue? You're thinking about your key resources. Own more assets within my business, and therefore I don't have to pay the rental cost that comes in there. Are these my key assets? Are these assets even adding value? Right? Thinking about my key activities. How could I be more efficient in my key activities so therefore I can do more having the same limited resources? And thinking about my key partners. Are there anybody that I can network with? So thinking about jumping in a couple of chambers, a couple of associations, getting to know entrepreneurs. And we always like to say in Trinidad, it's all about who you know, except for small entrepreneurs, because small entrepreneurs don't go networking and trying to figure out more persons, getting to know more persons, right? So this is your opportunity to increase your business by creating more partners and more relationships. And then obviously it's your cost structure, right? How could I be more cost efficient in my business? So with that, I implore you to have, if you have any thoughts and questions, you can type it in the chat, into the YouTube chat, and feel free to ask anything, and we're going to get those questions answered in the back end. So again, I just want to reintroduce, use your passion to solve problems and turn it into a profit. We're going to make this a mantra in terms of entrepreneurs just now. So figure out your passion, solve those problems, and make those profits, right? So we always get this question about, I'm a startup entrepreneur, right? How do I get funding to get my business started? Now, most entrepreneurs who actually started their business, they say the hardest part is not getting funding. The hardest part is actually starting or knowing where to start, that I do not require the funding as yet, right? So you're thinking about, you don't need money to start, but rather you need money to grow your business. And I always employ persons to get started. If you want a chicken farm, the proper place might be to start by selling the eggs. So you go to other chicken farms and sell the eggs and you generate some income. So when you hit that, and that brings us to the first one in terms of a bank loan, and the banks always ask you, okay, for your business, do you have any financial track record, right? Whether if you call it S&C's chicken farm, right? And you're selling, there's the chicken, you're selling the eggs, right? You moved up to purchasing a couple of chickens for yourself, and then you're having your own, then you're approaching the bank basically for funding to actually build the farm. You actually have a track record. So you may be doing it a year, and you can show them some cash flow coming in and out for that selling the eggs, right? And then they will be more obliged to say, okay, you need money now to grow your business rather than to start your business, because you're starting doing something and you build that track record, right? And maybe even taking out smaller loans. So instead of going for that first $100,000 loan, you may start with that $5,000 loan from the bank first and build that credit, right? So there are other options like credit unions, well, a more lenient. So you can even join a credit union with the goal of building that capacity. So you're maybe doing a savings in the credit union. So when you get that 10%, it helps you increase in terms of your value, in terms of asking for a loan from them. Then you want to think about its entrepreneurship. So a lot of it, there's grants all around, right? Whether it be local or international. I tell entrepreneurs, go on Google, search grants, and do some research. So you may do 100 hours in terms of trying to research on what grants are out there. And this is the opportunity to look locally, look regionally, look internationally, what grants are available for businesses. So recently, the government would have offered some recovery grants for entrepreneurs in terms of those who had businesses, right? So there aren't grants right now for people who are starting up, but you're looking at where could I actually get funding for my business, as small as they may be. And then you're looking at competitions. Don't be afraid to compete, right? Could your business stand up to other businesses, and that competition may be bringing you funding. You're thinking about, how could I barter my skills or services for things that I need? I'm a gardener, or even I'm somebody who's just, right now I'm just cutting the lawns, right? And you're thinking about, hey, I know a graphic designer that has a yard that wants his lawn cut. I need a logo done. Can you start bartering your services? And this becomes getting you networking as well. Could you barter your skills or your services right now for things that you may need, right? So you may be looking at, what do I need as a startup course? And one of your startup courses is a logo. Instead of trying to get funding to get a logo done, is there any service that you could offer to anybody who has a graphic designer, right, that can do your logo for free? Well, not for free, because you're bartering services here, right? Other persons would have used trying to get a major customer first. And once you have a major customer lock, then you could apply for a loan or funding from a different institution, showing them that I have well, not proof of concept at this stage, it's showing them I actually have customers lined up. And then it becomes a little less risky for me as a funder to give you funding. So when you're looking at funding my business, you can also look at joining some startup incubators. We have a couple here in Trinidad and Tobago. They were things like the Youth Start, IBIS program. Those are these startup incubators that you can dive into. But there are also incubators that are open to global persons as well. So start searching around what incubators are out there to support me. And obviously we look at startups, especially with entrepreneurship as that area. Are there any investors or investor groups? I always tell persons, ask yourself the question, are you investor ready? Right? Do you know how to value your business? And these are things that you may have to be doing all the time. Do you know how to value your business? Do you have proper financial records, right? That's showing an investor. And when you're looking for an investor, you're not just looking solely for funding, but you're looking for an investor who can provide me with additional support. We're coming back with reducing the raw material costs. An investor who can give me $100,000 is fine, right? An investor who can give me $50,000, right? But also as a manufacturing firm or a distribution firm that adds value to my business is even better, right? So even when you're thinking about valuing your business, you can actually have not just the dollar value of your business, but you may have relationship with your own suppliers, right? So therefore, you're actually increasing your businesses by having more partners and having more relationships with other businesses around, because those are goodwill, right? And those are added value. The relationship that you have with your customers, those are long-term relationships, and you can show reoccurring information coming in. So I always tell persons, investing is a long-term game, and it's becoming investor ready, right? What do you have to offer outside of your balance sheet, which you need to have one, outside of your balance sheet to an investor, and what does the investor have to offer you outside of financing coming into your business as an investor? And then people always tell me that they look at friends and families. There's another F sometimes that people add into there, but I wouldn't go there. So friends and families is another option that you may look at seeking people to buy into your business. You may even get them shares in your business as part ownership that they can get returns on. And I always tell persons, you may need to start a business to start your business, right? So you may need to start a business to start a business. So you're thinking about, my business right now is costing me 100,000. There's probably a business that I can start that is worth 10,000, or there's probably a business I can start before that is worth 100, or is worth 1,000 by itself. So by starting that $1,000 business, I can generate and save money to get to that 10,000. With that 10,000 business, I can save money to get to that 100,000. So you're thinking about it in stages, right? So entrepreneurship is a journey. Sometimes it's not where you start, it's probably something that's not where you end, is where you start. So you're thinking about, where do I need to start my business? And as an example of where the business model canvas comes in, it tells you where can I reduce my business, even the same customers, I can offer a different value, right, at this starting point, right? So you're looking at how could I reduce costs, looking at those cost structure, and that's where it comes in. How could I reduce costs and slowly build my business to where I imagine it should be? Who's out there in terms of support? Because this was something I was supposed to look at. And this is a list of what's in my mind right now. The extensive amount of different various organizations, banks, credit unions you can go into. And this list is always changing, right? There are persons who offer taxation support as well. So, I mean, I wouldn't be the general manager if I didn't put youth business Trinidad and Tobago on top there as an option you can go to. You can look at Curie. If you're doing any products that need testing, they also have a hatchery program. They also work with IPO in terms of doing some intellectual property advice. So you can look at Curie from there. You get options like Netco. You can get funding from them as well. There are options like Planting Seeds, who would have had the investor pitch. I'm sure everybody would have seen Planting Seeds now. And then they've created a platform for entrepreneurs to sell and distribute their goods and services online. So these are people that you can research as well. There are the different various chambers. Remember I said, who are you partnering with? Where are the suppliers, right? There may be an effort for you to now join a different chamber or an association like the Supermarkets Association, and trying to get into those chambers and association and network, right? The intellectual property office is also a useful resource in terms of if you're creating anything of value. You can think about what intellectual property rights, even as trademarking your logo, is something that you may want to look into. So this is about entrepreneurship. I'm giving you names of organizations that you can research. So you have the opportunity to go back from there and we only have limited time, right? So NTA is another organization if you need that technical training. So you can put them there as well in terms of the National Training Agency for different technical skills. You want to increase your capacity, right? So making sure that you understand that the agencies are out there for you. The Agriculture Development Bank and NABDEFCO, if you're in the area of agriculture, you need funding, ADB is there. If you need support even in terms of packaging what you're doing, NABDEFCO is there as well. And then NABDEFCO has their farmers market. So getting to know these organizations and what they're about, it can really help you. You can look at organizations like Export TT. If I'm thinking about exporting or even getting training around exporting, these are organizations that you need to be speaking to. Organizations like Exim Bank, who's also out there to support persons looking to export and may possibly need funding. So you as an entrepreneur, and of course, we're doing some work right now with them, the THA, if you're in Tobago, the YES program. So looking at these organizations that can offer training, mentorship, funding, additional capacity services, figuring out what these organizations have to offer. And as an entrepreneur, make your own listing of what these entrepreneurs do. Circle what you need from these organizations, and you can have your own hit list of who I need to target and for what, right? So you have different options of different organizations that you can go to. I left out the bank, so when you're looking at what bank I should actually get into, think about what does the bank have to offer. If you're, especially for small entrepreneurs, right? So think about, do they have a special package for small entrepreneurs? By choosing this bank, what is the advantage? So even for making your list of what bank or credit union I should jump into, try to do a pros and cons. By joining this bank, you don't want to, I mean, you could be in multiple banks, but could I get a credit card? What kind of credit card limit I could get from this bank, right? What kind of loan services they offer for small entrepreneurs, right? So you're thinking about what could I get from these different organizations and how they could be value to my businesses. So hopefully some of these organizations end up in your key partners as well when you're thinking about how can I grow my business. So with that, it comes back to the same theory. Use your passion to solve problems and turn it into profit. Thanks for listening. Some contact information. We're on Instagram. You can search for Youth Business TT. We're on Facebook, your YBTT. You can email me directly with entrepreneur@ybtt.org. You can check out our website, right? I gave you a 10-second blurb about Youth Business. 10 seconds is only so much I can tell you, right? So be out there, getting to know. Let YBTT become one of your key partners that helps you grow your business as well. So with that's it for my presentation. I want to thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Shedron. That was such an insightful presentation. I found myself taking notes as well, so I'm hoping that our viewers did the same. And as he rightly said, this is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel. The same link that you were invited with, we'll be, making it accessible on that channel as well. So let's chat a little bit. Let's see what questions we have that came in. I know that while you were doing the presentation, you said you saw some persons asking some key things. And while we are looking at that, I just wanted to mention, I love the first advice that you gave. Just start.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that is so key. The fact that you pointed out that as beneficial as it is to have a business plan, you say just start.
Yeah.
And I, for one, appreciate that you were able to share with us today those 9 blocks that form a part of your business canvas. Is that the right name?
Yes.
Right. Okay. So let's go across to the questions and see how we can best answer the questions that were coming in. So let's start at the very top. We had persons that were saying that this is a very clear and enlightening presentation thus far.
All right.
Right.
Let's remember we have a 10-week course on this, so this was just a taste. I always tell persons the business canvas is not new. YouTube it. If you want to talk to me about it, you have my email address, message me. You don't have a lot of time sometimes, but send me a message and I can always feel free to talk to you as well.
Wonderful. So let's see what our questions are. Someone is asking here, what are some of the most important things you need to know when starting a business? And I know you would have covered a lot of that in your presentation. Is there anything that you can just summarize very quickly? What are some of the important things you need to know when starting a business?
So I always tell persons when starting a business, you need to have a lot of support system, right? So try to develop, look for your own mentors. Business will give you advice. There's a lot of legal implications in terms of starting a business, knowing what type of legal structure to put into place. Would I be a sole trader? Would I develop a partnership? Would I look at a limited liability company? So each has its own benefits and each has its own cons. So you need to figure out what is right for you. As much as we hate numbers, get to know your numbers, right? Even if you're starting small, still record as beginning as possible. Like I said, if you want to have that chicken farm, the best place is to start. If you're selling the eggs, record how much eggs cost me, so how much I'm spending every month on eggs, and how much revenue that eggs is making, so that I have a record. Talk to a banker, right? Don't afraid to just ask them in terms of, hey, I'm interested in starting a business. What do banks look for from young entrepreneurs? A banker told me once, as simple as you're running a small business, a lot of them forget to deposit their money in the bank. So the bank has no financial record of them. So as simple as depositing at the end of every month, how much money I'm making, you can take it out the next day. Or as simple as depositing your money, the bank has some kind of record from their perspective of your business. So it's not just them relying on the thought process behind you. At the end of the year, if I deposit $1,000 every month, the bank records I made deposit of $12,000. So you're start thinking like that. So you need to put yourself in a legal framework, human resource, marketing. So start speaking to as much persons in those sectors and get some advice.
Okay, thank you. Now, before I go to the next question, I hear you saying the word record, record, record. Is there some special fancy software that I need to go start investing in? What's the best way, me as somebody who's now starting up a business, what's the best recommendation you have for me to record?
Well, we have our QuickBooks and stuff in terms of YBTT. I still use Excel. As simple as that. And all Excel does is record my income. I have the months and I have outputs. I know for another entrepreneur, what they do is they actually still have a folder, right? And within that folder, they have pages. So for every month, they record what money is coming in and what money is coming out.
Yes, manually, pen and paper.
Keep it as simple as possible and what you know, right? When you get started, don't let that stop you. So get started and start recording. Any simple sale that you make, have a receipt book, right? So if somebody makes a purchase, whether they want the receipt or not, you write it down. You can keep the receipt if they don't want to, right? You write it down, and that gives you some information in terms of going back and checking how much money actually did I make this week. I always tell entrepreneurs, so those are things that you don't like in your business, but you have to make time for it. So whether you say, I know sometimes with entrepreneurs, you don't have off days. So Sunday might be a day you're going back and looking over the week and see, okay, these are my records. What did I record for the week? But it's a lot easier to do that if you actually wrote it down. Okay. Right? If you didn't write down anything, I have to go from memory. That's hard.
Wonderful. That actually leads us into our second question. In managing the purchases and storing of goods for your business, can you advise on the best way to do this?
So, I mean, that's more of accounting software. I still use things like QuickBooks. I use an inventory management system. I mean, you can search these things. You can use Waves in terms of doing receipts and invoices for persons. So it's all really what works for you. Excel. The thing about entrepreneurship, there's a lot of easy tools. There are a lot of fancy tools. If you Google inventory management system, you can get one with a template on Excel. I'm an Excel lover, I guess. So it helps me keep things simple. It helps me keep things simple, and that works for me a lot in this time.
Okay, I think also part of the question might have been related to something you mentioned about having key partners. Yep. So if they're looking for a storage facility or anything like that, maybe that might be an option when they're networking.
Yeah. So it's all about, and I mean, I know we spoke to this in the tech call before, so I'll probably jump in right now. When you're looking at your 3 keys for your business, you're looking at, do I build, do I buy, or do I borrow?
Three
right?
Bs.
The three Bs, right? To add to the three Ps that you're gonna put in the presentation, right? So these are the three Bs, and the way it's connected. You're thinking about your key resources are things that you buy. So you have to buy these to become assets. Your activities may require you to now build those activities. Your key partners is where you're actually borrowing those things. And borrowing simply means that you may have to pay a rent on it. So as soon as we talk about the storage facilities as your key partners, you may actually have to pay a rent on it for a while and as a cost to your business. And you have to think about, if I'm going to use this storage for an entire year, is it better for me to purchase it, right? And upfront and make it a key resource? Or is it better to look for storage persons that I can partner with and just borrow and I pay a rental fee for it? And that might be better manageable for me within a year.
I think that also leads us to the next question. It's sort of like a flow going on here. Someone is asking, is it more economical to outsource the management of salaries and human resources? So I guess they're thinking that when they're the entrepreneur, they're the chief cook and bottle washer.
Yeah.
So they want to know if it's more economical to outsource those services like the management of salaries and human resources.
I always tell everybody that entrepreneurship, every business is different. And it's really what are you financially capable of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, at least at that starting point, you may have to be the front of house, the washer, the cook, and be everything. So be as knowledgeable as possible. And as time comes up, you're looking at, now, I need someone to manage this aspect of the business and it frees up time. So you want to know from that time that you're freeing up, let's say it frees up 2 hours of my week that I would spend to those salaries, right? If it frees up 2 hours of my week, that additional 2 hours that I get, am I generating 2 hours worth of income that can now transfer into that person's salary? So you're not thinking about it in terms of building blocks. Everything is connected. By me hiring this person, may add additional costs, but I can also add additional revenue that balances it off. And the good thing about the business model canvas is there's 3 of the connecting dots that you're looking at. Additional resources as a human resource in terms of you're adding to your value, which adds their cost, and you're now thinking about, is there revenue to cover that cost? So you want to connect the 3.
I'm thinking that this seems to be very, very bite-sized and manageable. I can't wait to dive down into it myself. So Nathan James is asking, if someone has a cottage business and there are friends and not family working, what would this business action be called? So he's saying there's a cottage business and there are friends and not family working. What is this business action called?
But I'm not too sure I'm thinking it's a partnership that they're looking at. So I'm not too sure if that's the response that they wanted, but
Nathan, can you clarify? If Nathan can clarify first, I'll get that message. But while we're waiting on that,
I can address the partnership issues as well.
Sure, go right
at the
ahead.
onset of the business, seek legal advice and get a partnership framework done. Right? So who's going to be doing what, and establish who's doing what, so it doesn't seem like a business of 5. We've all done group work before. In a group of 5, you may have 2 people doing all the work, and that's because you didn't establish at the ground at the onset. This is what I'm doing, and this is what I'm being paid from the business to do as well. So it may be 5 of you are working, but 2 of them are actually doing more work than the other 5. And as the financial side of things, when we break down the profits and we try to share profits in terms of for each of the salaries, are the 2 persons being paid more? Right, and can they work with that? So come to that agreement at the beginning of the business, so it helps. It might be something that you say, here's what, this is the agreement as it stands for the first year of the business. We're going to redo this agreement after a year, and you can address it after a year, and you have a third-party legal person to address the needs of all persons. It may cost a little bit more, but it will be a lot less headache as you get into it.
So is it that you're also saying that the business canvas is a living document? Is it that you can adjust it? And how often do you recommend we adjust it when we sit down and use this model?
You can make time for it, right? I always tell persons it's a living document. You can have it as the first thing you come into your office and see. So for us, we have, there's one.
I see it. I see it.
Right, if I turn my camera a bit.
Wow.
Right. So for every major service that we offer, we actually have a business canvas that we work with. We use sticky notes, so you can always say this isn't working, take it off. right? The rest remind me to put that back, right? You can take it up and you can switch. So as you talk about the human resource and it tackles the three key aspects of your business, you know, making that change in your key resource, your cost structure, and your revenue stream. So it helps a lot to start thinking about anything that I need to change in my business. How does it affect my business model? It may be additional cost, it may be additional revenue, it might be a change in the value that I'm creating for customers, it might be changing the customer's dynamic. We've had persons who were doing more of a social enterprise, and they were selling, well, they were doing work around beach cleanup and devices, right? In terms of testing waters. And then COVID happened, right? And the entire business model switched to selling hand sanitizers, right? We've had persons who were doing selling phones, and then he realized that everybody's selling phones, but nobody is there to do the delivery. So his entire business model changed. His customers changed. So other people were selling phones, and his services were now delivering to those persons. So it's all about what is happening in the world and being knowledgeable of what is happening and how it's affecting your business. When you wake up in the morning, you might be reading the papers and see an opportunity, or you may see a challenge. And you're starting to think about, how could that affect my business, and does it affect any parts of my model?
Good to know. And as you were speaking a bit about the COVID-19 pandemic, we have a question here from Lena Boyce asking, when registering a business, how do you recommend that one goes about doing this with the pandemic? I guess they're asking about the current transactions that are taking place in legal affairs or so. Is this something you can speak to?
Well, Ministry, I can't speak in depth because I haven't registered a business in a while. So within registering your business, Ministry of Legal Affairs has a documented process. A couple of these services are online. There are a couple of things that you need to go physically and get done. But I mean, most of the ministries are making some adjustments and COVID-related restrictions as well. So part of entrepreneurship is researching. So I always tell persons, look up the Ministry of Legal Affairs page, look under registering a business, and you can see what gets done there. Right now, most of their services are online, so the details are online there. Even going about doing a name search as part of your business, you can get that done there. So the important thing now is for everybody who's thinking about starting a business, make sure you have your TT Connect ID. Because anything that you need to do in the government industry right now, you may need your TT Connect ID, right? So if you're even looking at paying online, yes, you're paying online, but you may now need your TT Connect ID number. So those are things that you're starting to invest in as you see the process going forward.
Okay. Not sure I'm seeing any more questions coming in, but we did have some discussion previously. Is there anything in particular that you wanted everyone listening today to take away from today? Is there anything important that you really wanted them to learn about? I mean, everything you said was so spot on. You talk about the 3 Ps, you talk about the 3 Bs, you talk about the 9 steps. Is there any other nuggets of information you want to share with us today? I
would tell persons the best part of entrepreneurship is the journey. There are going to be some ups and downs. Even here in YBTT, we're sitting down and trying to figure out how can we change our revenue stream or become more relevant to our entrepreneurs, right? So a lot of it is going to be ups and downs, and you have to survive while you're good for the hills. You have to survive the valleys as well, right? In terms of the goods. So entrepreneurship and team sport, try to get together as a team and see what you can do together. It's be a lot easier, but if you're doing it alone, it becomes a lonely road, and you need that support sometimes. You know, we always say that we're connecting people, right? We need to see people, we need to connect with them. Sometimes within your business, there's nobody to connect with, right? Your friends and family probably don't believe in your idea or where your idea is going. So you need to find that support system. And that's where you get looking at mentors, people you can connect with. If you don't have a LinkedIn account, join LinkedIn, join Facebook, join Instagram, right? Go to different networking events. As much as possible, you're going to try to find what we call your tribe. Find your tribe, right? Find people that are going to support you, advise you, and help your business grow.
Very good advice coming out.
YBTT can also be a tribe, this lady.
Hey, we appreciate all of the information, and I mean, yes, take advantage of the situation to promote the services, because you've given us a lot to think about today. And I'm just checking to see if we have any more questions coming in, because I believe we have about 4 more minutes before we close off. So let's just check the chat. Yes, and we do have one more question that's coming in. Let me just hold on and see what's coming here. And for the person that was asking if this session was going to be recorded, yes, definitely, because Mr. Collins was saying he was sure you would want to replay this and take your notes and all of that. It's available on our YouTube channel. Just click the link that you used to get into today's session, and it will be available after the session today. And we have a big question here, Shedron. I'm not sure we'll be able to. Yes.
Yeah. I would always say marketing it's now about storytelling, right? So don't just shove your products or services down person's throat. You want to start building those stories, those testimonials of people who are actually using your product or service, right? And try to tell persons, because remember you're now selling, what value do I offer, or what value does my product or service offer? So stop thinking about selling my product or service. Start thinking about how do I tell persons about the value about using my product or service, right? And sometimes it's hearing from the horse's mouth. You want to hear from people who actually use your product and service. As much as possible, if you're an electrician, ask somebody, here's what you're willing to say 30 seconds about my business and record them right there with your phone, right?
So we're talking about reviews and testimonials.
Right. And don't even think about the traditional way of having somebody give a quote. Pull out your phone, give me a 30 seconds, right? And market that, because it will help you get more business and become a better entrepreneur. Let them know. I mean, let your customers become part of your business. And that's part of the relationship building as well, right? So find as much as possible about them, what they like to do, what are their problems, how you can support them some more. Word of mouth works to different businesses. And again, marketing your product, it depends on what you're doing and who your target audience is. So as much as possible, know your customers. Where are they, right? So I'm seeing a lot of social media stuff, but if your customers aren't on social media, right, you have to figure out where are my customers, where a group of them are, and how can I reach those persons?
Wonderful. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that question concludes our session for today. I want to thank you for joining us for today's session and for lending us your support throughout all of our online sessions. We have one more online session next week, Wednesday at 10 o'clock, and we'll be sending out those invites pretty soon. But most of all for today, I want to express my gratitude to you, Mr. Shedron Collins, for taking the time out of your day to come and share the information, knowledge, and experience that you have, shared with us today. I'm pretty sure that it's influencing so many persons in their decision making and will assist them in taking their businesses going forward. Once again, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Shedron. Thank you, all my supporters, all my IT departments, my business development and communication department of the National Training Agency. Thank you, everyone. Please continue to stay safe and well. God bless.